things are. But among all of us, we're just the heights we are. So it doesn't really occur to you very often. And Kieran Shah, my scale level, hasn't been used that much. It's not as much as no, not that much. So it's felt fairly nameless, and it hasn't felt too contrived. And personally, I've been surprised by how quickly I got used to it. Got used to these ways of filming that happen. The first time that we ever shot a scene with Gandalf where Ian had to be in a completely different room, I thought it was ridiculous. This will never happen. Who are these people? Why are they doing this? Then sort of an hour later you go, oh, that makes a good story. And you rehearse it, and it sort of becomes normal. So your whole frame of reference for how you normally work with a film shifts, and what 1 minute is completely unworkable and ridiculous, the next week is just, going to work. So it becomes very easy.
First year, and then you.
Well, along those lines, I'm curious to know, from your perspective, Anthony, certainly, the technological advances that have come along since you were doing this program have been just amazing. And Peter, would you like to speak to that? What has become easier? Anything that you'd like to talk about, which is the director-actor relationship, things that they've adjusted because of those technological changes that you talked about?
Yeah, I mean the technology does. The technology that advanced the most in the last 10 or 12 years is really the fact that we did a lot of miniature shooting on Lord of the Rings. So Minas Tirith, Helm's Deep, the Dark Tower of Barad-dûr, all the big, architectural structures of Middle Earth were really miniature. Some of them quite large. But you're limited to what you can do with a miniature because you've literally got to have a big camera that has to sort of sweep, past it, so you can't get too close to it, and detail doesn't hold up too well if you do. So this time around, there are no miniatures; it's all done with CGI. So everything that we need to build from a miniature point of view, we build as a CG miniature, which allows my camera work. I can now swoop in over rooftops, through doorways. You can do things that you could have never dreamt of doing when you had this, the miniature. So that, for me, that's actually one of the most profound differences. Gollum has more muscles in his face than he did 12 years ago. Hopefully Andy has made those muscles work in a brilliant kind of way. but it's certainly, we deliberately made Gollum look very similar to how we did, obviously, because we wanted consistency through the films. But Weta Digital, who do the work, they've subsequently been working on Avatar and built a very sophisticated motion control motion capture facial system, which Gollum certainly inherited some of the technological advances of that. Did you have anything?
Yeah, well, just
the
on-set motion capture. When we shot Lord of the Rings, we shot on 35mm, and I would act with Elijah and Sean Astin, and then the performances were filmed. Then I have to go back to the motion capture stage. It's called motion capture, then it was just the motion, and kind of choreograph for certain scenes, choreograph Gollum back into the plates, the empty plates. Whereas now, and the facial performance was derived from a filmed 35mm performance, which was then rotoscoped, in fact, or animated directly to match that performance. Whereas what is amazing now with performance capture, and it's now motion capture, and that is because you can get the entire performance all in one hit. So we were able to shoot the scene, the Riddles in the Dark scene, in entirety on a live set, with Martin's performance being captured on 35mm or digital camera, but then the Gollum's performance using performance capture cameras, capturing it in exactly the same moment in time. And what that does is, there's no disconnect. There's the fidelity to the moment, to the choices, to the beats that you create between the director and the actors, therefore, is absolutely, nailed, in one, and that makes a significant difference to how the believability and the emotional, therefore, the chances to augment and change the iteration and change the performances on the fly. That makes a huge difference.
Okay, John.
Can you talk just a bit more about that whole visual experience when you finally see it, the 3D, 48 frames? What the adjustments are
Well, the 3D is, I mean, everyone's used to seeing 3D now. I mean, we have filmed in 3D, we're not doing a post-conversion. You know, which I think is a much more immediate and realistic look at 3D. It's been surprisingly easy too. The cameras and the rigs that were available to us, even though they were prototypes when we first began the 3D cameras, they performed really, really well and very, very easily used, fast, doesn't slow us down at all. And the 48 frames a second really, it takes away the artifacts that we're used to seeing in cinema, and I think that's what people, you know, are going to have to get used to. And as I say, I find like, you know, you get used to it pretty quickly when you sit and watch it, is that we're used to seeing strobing, we're used to seeing a panning shot, which is like a series of still frames that kind of shudders its way along. And you don't get that at 48 frames. And yet it doesn't impede our ability to colour time the film, to put a really creative, you know, grade on the movie. Everything is the same as it normally is. It's really just, it's a motion. And the fact that you don't have so much motion blur also makes it feel quite sharp as well. So you get, you know, you get something that to me is much more akin to shooting on 65mm. You know, like it just, as David Lean shot all these films and Kubrick shot 2001, they used a large 65mm because they wanted a particular crispness and clarity to their image. And even though they were shooting at 34 frames, they had a very fine detail in it. And so you get that with these 4K cameras that they're using in the 38 frames, you get something. And it was actually weird because back in about 1998, when we first started working on Lord of the Rings, I seriously, for a while, I tried to convince the studio to shoot in 65mm because I really thought that Lord of the Rings shouldn't be shot in that format. But at the time, the cameras were huge, cumbersome, they were difficult. The negative that we would shoot would have to be sent away to America to be processed, so we couldn't even see any of the rushes. From New Zealand, they had to be shipped to America and back again. So the whole thing really wasn't actually possible. So for me, this is now, I finally get to shoot my sort of 65mm quality.
It's astonishing to think, isn't it, that most people of the presentation just now have never seen Lord of the Rings in the cinema. And we've all got 8, 10, 9, 10-year-olds who watch Lord of the Rings non-stop, they watch it at home and scream that sound. What is going to happen to their heads? When their parents in to see a 3D movie, maybe for the first time, certainly this story, and 48 frames a second. It's going to be much, much, much bigger and astonishing than we think, because we're used to it all. But kids are going to see.
Hopefully they'll tell their parents to take them to more movies.
Well, exactly.
Keep them away from your iPads.
I think people who think, say, we don't need 3D, we're used to 2D. Bollocks. I mean, 3D is life. We're in 3D now. And the brilliance about Peter's 3D is that it doesn't come out actually. You go into it. It's in fact, you enter Middle Earth. You look round the corner. You're even deeper in, and can you find a way out? That's the effect of 3D. And those little kids are so thrilled.
48 frames a second is way better than 3D, I'll tell you now. Because, you know, one of the things with 3D is it does accentuate that strobing because, you know, you're getting it in 2 eyes, you're getting 2 cameras that are filming, and so once you go to 48, it's much, much smoother. There's no eye strain, there's no grates. I mean, the thing that we have to get now are the laser projectors, which are on the horizon probably next year, where the light levels of 3D will be radically increased, you know, to 2 or 3 times the light levels that exist now. And at that point, I think, you know, Cinema Exhibition will be at a place where it will be great.
Right here.
Andy, we understand that you also worked on the production of The Hobbit. Talk about the experience and what you actually did, and is this where you want to head towards for your career?
Yeah, I mean, I've been wanting to direct film for quite some time, and during the Lord of the Rings, I was directing short films, and then using performance capture. I've gone into directing video games and so forth, and then so Peter's always been aware that that's an area that I've wanted to move towards. So it really was. It was.